welcome back to our YouTube channel, Job Hunters. I'm glad to see that you guys are taking the time to join us today. As you guys all know, we are very new. So if you guys haven't had the chance, please go to the video before that. We actually released it last week, and it's a quick introduction to our channel explaining what the purpose of the channel is. So I think that's important to just hear. Every week, we're going to release a new video with different topics relating to job hunting. And this week, we decided to start with one of the most important things when you are looking for work. What might that be? We are going to talk to you about building a proper CV. So it can be very confusing to build a CV. There's so many examples online that you can follow, different formats, so many layouts. Some CVs are extremely long, some are extremely short. So it can be very confusing just to go online and try to mimic some of the layouts. So to begin with, this is probably the most obvious, but I just want to touch on it just in case. The first thing you should have at the very top is your name. You want to make sure that it's clearly written so that the employer can know who they're analyzing when they're reviewing the CV. The second thing that you want to have is your contact information right below your name. So that would entail your address, your phone number, and your email. So why would you put your address? Of course, your address is personal, but if you put your address and you're actually in close proximity to the employer or the company that you're applying for, this can actually be a plus for you. Obviously, the closer you are, the more punctual you will be. So this is something you might want to put at the beginning. The other thing is, as for your phone number, should you put your home or your cell? You should put, if you can, put both. But the most important thing is put the number that you can be easily reached at. For me personally, and for most people, most likely it's going to be the cell phone as you're carrying with you all day. But if you just have a home phone, that's fine as well. The other thing you want to put is your personal email address. Now, this is just an extra way for them to contact you. If they try to call you, if they want to send something to you, then they're able to do so by using the email address on your file. So that's just to begin. Right after that, you want to start by putting a summary of yourself. The summary should not be that long. It's 2 to 3 lines briefly describing who you are, what you've done, and just so they can have a hint of who you are, essentially. So make sure it's 2 to 3 lines, sentences, and that's it for the summary section. Now, if you are somebody who has less work experience, and for example, you just came out of school or you just had your internship as a work experience, the summary might be a little bit shorter. But in this case, what I can recommend is instead of putting a summary, put a career objective. So here's where you would write that you recently studied this program and you did your internship for 4 months in this position, and now you're seeking this type of role full time. So that's something I can suggest to maybe someone who just came out of school. So that's important. So right after the summary section and the career objective, the next point that you want to add on your CV is the highlights or the skills that you want to highlight. For example, you want to put you're bilingual. That's definitely a plus, especially if you're looking for work in Montreal. If you're proficient in Excel, if you have used a certain software, for example, Workday for HR professionals. So these are things that you just want to highlight in bullet points so that when they look at your CV before they dive into the experience, they can just have a general idea of what you've touched on, okay? And for these highlights, you want to make sure that they match the job that you are applying. So the next step is that you want to then either add your education or experience. Which one should you add first? So when it comes to this, it depends on what job you're applying for. Now, if you're applying for a position that is more academic, maybe a research position, then you'll want to put your education before your experience. So just make sure that you look at the job description, look at what's more important for the employer, and then you'll structure your CV either with the education first or the experience. Now, when it comes to entering either your education or experience, you want to make sure that you clearly indicate first what your position is or what you've studied so that they know when they look at your CV what kind of experience you have. And then below, you're going to put the name of the company. That's also important, but by putting the name of the company first, that catches their eye and they might lose sight of what you've been doing before, what you were doing as your job. So what you've done in your experience is really important. So I would suggest putting the job title first. Now, you should also make sure that you put the month and the year, especially when it comes to your work experience. Maybe less for schooling, but it's definitely important to have that for work experience. What it does is it eliminates the employer having to question how long were you there for, right? So might as well make it easier for them. It makes it easier for you, less questions for them to ask you. So I definitely would recommend putting the month and the year. Okay. In terms of the description, so you want to make it very short, concise, to the point, but you want your description to basically show the task that you have done. So make sure that you highlight some of the main things that you covered, and that it's things that they're looking for in the job that you are applying for. So for example, if you're applying for an HR position, talk about maybe some of the experience that you've done with employment relation, disciplinary action, for example. Once you do that, if you've had any achievements from each of the jobs that you really just want to highlight, you can put that also in each of the jobs. So right below the job or your description or your task, you can write achievements, what you were able to successfully do at work. Please leave comments here if you have any questions about it, or any comments that you want to make about the video. And again, if you like what you see so far and you think this is helpful, please do not forget to subscribe below. Next week we'll be releasing another video that I think will be very interesting for you guys. So stay tuned and happy hunting.